parenting is theater. We're showing, not telling our children how to do relationship. And they're watching. They're watching to see how we share amongst our partners, how we take care of each other, how we respect each other, how we fall on our own swords and make amends, even though that's hard to do, how we
Yeah.
fix things and repair. So, all of these things are important, and it starts now.
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode number 349. Today, we're talking about your coupledom, how to keep your union together after kids, with Stan Tatkin and Kara Hoppe. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have, and when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark Fields. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of Mindful Parenting, and I'm the author of the best-selling book, Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my God, this is such an important episode. But listen, before we dive in, if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. And if you have gotten some value from the Mindful Mama podcast, please do me a favor and go over to Apple Podcasts. Leave us a rating and review. It helps the podcast grow more. It takes like 10 seconds, and it's just so truly appreciated from the bottom of my heart. In just a moment, I'm going to be sitting down with Stan Tatkin and Kara Hoppe. Kara is a psychologist, teacher, feminist, and mother. She's spent more than a decade working with individuals and couples towards healing, growing, and becoming grounded. And Stan Tatkin is a clinician, teacher, and developer of the psychobiological approach to couple therapy. He has worked with couples and individuals in a clinical practice for more than 35 years, and they team together because they have written an amazing book that I love called Baby Bomb. And listen, this is not just for you if you just have a baby. It is for all couples who have children. We talk about this idea about how to have our relationships thrive even in parenthood, because it's like we're often overwhelmed, we might be sleep deprived, there's so many demands on our time. And how do we and our partners co-parent as a solid and supportive team while also like having a secure relationship with each other? This is so vitally important. It's really, really incredible. I loved talking to Kara and Stan, and I learned so much. I know you are too. So join me at the table as I talk to Stan Tatkin and Kara Hoppe. I love the title of your book, Baby Bomb, which I think is so appropriate. Most of the listeners are parents, but maybe you could just describe for us, what is the reality for most people, after we have a baby and suddenly we've got kids in the picture? What's the reality of what's happening?
Well, I mean, as you know, as a parent, Hunter, like everyone says when you're expecting that everything's about to change, but you know that you're like, yeah, okay, you know, and and obviously everything changes. I mean, your relationship to your partner changes, your relationship to yourself changes, and your whole life is turned inside out. A lot more responsibilities. I mean, there's the learning curve of figuring out how to be a parent, trying to keep this baby alive and figure out what they want and need when I mean, really, nobody's ever done this before. I mean, when you become a parent, it's like a first time thing, and the stakes feel high because it's such a like a vulnerable, precious baby that can't even hold up their own head, and so everything changes. And I found in my own experience, and then in my clinical work, and then talking with Stan about it as well, as um, there's a need to support partners and how they can manage or mitigate the changes and really tend to their partnerships so that they're partners throughout the journey of the change and still getting along, liking each other, as they grow as parents.
your book says that the research shows this, that you and your partner need to make your relationship a priority. And for most people, a lot of people think, well, no, the baby is the priority. Like, forget about you now. I'm focused on the baby. Why is that? What's going on?
Well, everything has to be organized, structured according to hierarchy in terms of how two people are going to be a couple to begin with. And if they decide to have a family, how they're going to manage the family. Are they a couple, or are they going to dissolve the couple and now be parents only? The term mother or father is really for kids. It's not for the couple. So, we do know that couples that up into old age that are successful continue to be romantic, continue to be lovers in the sense that they love each other, that they're attentive to each other, that they're still affectionate with each other. And they also put the relationship first. Now, what that means is that in terms of decision making and governance, there has to be something at the top. We might think of it as the roof of the house. They're the roof of the house. They're the people that are in charge of everyone and everything. So if the couple system is not in good shape, then it just goes to follow that the kids are not going to be in the best shape either. So everyone is depending on the couple, the outside extended family, neighbors, friends, work people, and in particular, children. So we want to make sure that the couple knows that this is a couple project to raise children. It's not a singular project, that they're not supposed to then go into their own silos and parent separately. They've got to work together as they work with everything. And so we want to prepare couples for the emergence of a third person here that they're going to have to integrate into the family and maintain the coupledom, the union, the alliance that they created, hopefully, to begin with.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, but obviously, I think the reality of this, what happens, I see a lot in the people who come to mindful parenting and all, is that oftentimes one parent has chosen to sort of stay at home with the kids. We get kind of channeled into these sort of traditional roles without even just talking about it, where for instance, the mom is, or oftentimes it's the dad. I know I got a few stay-at-home dad listeners, and is home with the kids. The partner who's home with the kids is like doing all of the things parenting, becomes like sort of the uber parent, and then it really becomes sort of this very lopsided affair. And that has a whole bunch of problems, I imagine. And in my own relationship with my husband, I was like, we were very adamant about being sort of like having these conversations about fairness and partnership and him being an equal parent with me. But I don't think that's the norm, right? Like it's more often lopsided, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Culturally, like you said, Hunter, it's so easy for hetero couples to like fall into those gender roles. They're everywhere. They're on television, advertising's geared towards moms, we have on, support set up for moms in terms of like Facebook groups. You have a question, you can ask a bunch of moms. Like that support doesn't exist in the same way for dads. So it's so easy for it to happen. And then you also have like the biology of it. If you have a birthing person that is like identifies as female, that has like a whole other bunch of implications where they become the primary of giving birth, nursing. I feel it right now as a pregnant person in a hetero relationship where I'm noticing, obviously I am carrying a higher burden. I am carrying our child right now.
Literally,
and there's no way around that. And I think about that too. And I guess like the part that I think we talk about in Baby Bomb, because we bring up the culture in each chapter and the biology pieces of it, are the partners coming together and dealing with this as like an outside problem? Or are they attacking each other about it? Like my husband and I, like in this pregnancy, I've just said, like, it's not fair. I have morning sickness. I'm tired. Like, I'm carrying a higher load than you, and it's not fair. I mean, I love being pregnant, but that first trimester is so brutal,
Okay.
it really is. And I'm not coming at him like I'm mad at him. I'm coming at him like we need to collaborate and figure something out to navigate the lack of fairness in this. Like, let's not make him the problem or me the problem, but let's make the problem and come at it as two people dealing with it. So I
Mm.
guess it's like a shift of like consciousness of like making the problem the outsider, the lack of fairness and the patriarchy and all of the cultural parts. And
Mhm.
then having two people be on the same page if we want to do this differently. How can we do that differently? Knowing that the cards are stacked against us, I guess, culturally and biologically.
And may I dovetail on that, what you just said?
Hmm.
Because this
Please.
also happens in non-hetero couples as well. The imbalance, the lack of fairness, the lack of collaboration or teamwork. And it sounds like what you did, Hunter, is you did the right thing. You talked about it beforehand. If partners would only do this, that is, if they do see each other as an equal union, mutual stakeholders, that they think about what they're about to do, and they also expect the best, but plan for the worst. What could possibly go wrong? And if then, are we prepared for this? What if this happens? What if this happens? Are you going to be there? Are you going to be supporting me? Will I be supporting you? All of these conversations are important to have before jumping into something as big as having a baby or getting married for that matter. And so that is what we're advocating here is something called secure functioning, a
Hmm.
relationship of equal power and authority that's based on justice, fairness, and sensitivity, but also that has to remain fully collaborative and cooperative at all times.
Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. You don't have to go it alone anymore. Check out what parenting partners Daniel and Katrin had to say about mindful parenting's 36 hours a year of live coaching sessions.
Yeah, that has been great, and we've been really surprised that there aren't even more people in those calls. It really helps to see that you're not alone with your problems, and other people have similar problems. And even if they have different problems, it's nice to see that the tools work for them, and it's always interesting to get tips on which tools to use in which situation.
Like you said, you learn from other people's problems, but you also so often get a chance to bring up your own issues that came up in the days or weeks before the call. So it's really good to have some feedback or some input on how to handle things.
You actually get a personalized recommendation how it applies to your specific situation and not some abstract scenario.
Get on the waitlist for Mindful Parenting at mindfulparentingcourse.com. That's mindfulparentingcourse.com. Some of this is based on sort of attachment, right? You're talking about attachment.
Exactly.
And for a lot of the listeners, like attachment is just simply a thing between parent and child come solely, right? Like that, this is the way we think about attachment is like, is my child securely attached, right? But there's a lot of different sort of sides to this attachment story that you bring up in Baby Bomb.
Right. Just to correct that, attachment starts being measured in the infant caregiver relationship, but it is it carries throughout the lifespan, not as a static force. It's one that can be changed with every relationship. But to be sure that we're also talking about attachment systems in the adult pair bonding system as well, the adults, the parents. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because it does start at the beginning, with the caregiver and the infant, and then throughout childhood. But it can be changed. And that's why we made the attachment continuum in Baby Bomb, to show that you can be securely attached, but then stress can take you into a place of insecure attachment, and there you move around it. But I also want to like say that attachment it's not about personality, it's about a sense of safety and security that we feel as people in the world, in our relationships. So that's like in friendships, it's in obviously in partnership, it comes up huge in partnership, and then in the parent-child relationships. And it's like, we as human beings, we're wired to want to feel safe, and we need that. And so if we don't feel safe, we try to figure out ways to feel safe. And sometimes if you're not feeling safe in a relationship, like if Stan and I were close, we're friends, I'm not feeling safe with him, I'm going to do whatever I can to have that feeling of safety. And that might be lashing out at him, making him a villain. It might be pulling away and retreating in some kind of like self-soothing behavior. That's what I'm going to do because I need to feel safe. And that's like what partners do with each other when they're not providing each other and they're not providing themselves with that sense of safety and security. That's where we get into trouble. We want to feel it. We want to feel grounded. We want to feel safe. And sometimes our methods of feeling safe are very self-destructive, based on our attachment strategies.
Yeah, or culture. So, I mean, it's so interesting because you guys place it very, there's a clear foundation here, right? Like you have to feel safe, right? Like that's like the biological drive of like the nervous system. That's like the only system fully developed right at birth is like that. I need to feel safe system, right? And then at the basis of the whole parent, family relationship is the couple, and that couple needs to have this feeling of safety within them for everything else to kind of flow from there.
Right. That's why we say in the first guiding principle, the couple has to come first. Like partners have to make each other feel safe and offer that sense of safety to each other for everyone in the family to win. Because otherwise, like their partners, if they don't feel safe, are doing their own things to feel safe. But then also children sense that. They sense that like mom or dad doesn't feel safe or isn't getting their needs met, and their survival is dependent on that, on their parents. So kids will fill in the gaps. And that's why we want to help people learn another way of doing this by offering each other the sense of safety and love and belonging. So then kids can just be kids. They're like, they got it. They're good. I'm not going to worry about them. I'm going to do, whatever it is I'm going to do. And that's ultimately what we really want to help people with.
Okay, so let's imagine like a couple has a kid, right? And they have a 3-year-old. Maybe they got another one on the way. I don't know. Probably I didn't mean to describe your situation if that's what it is, Kara. But anyway, like so let's imagine that. But let's imagine a couple that maybe hasn't
She's
been
blonde and
she's blonde, she's wearing overalls. So there may be feelings of like resentment or unfairness and stuff like that are coming up. And there, maybe, a listener's in a situation like that and saying, well, how do I get back to, we've already been in this pattern for a while. We've had a baby bomb. We got another baby bomb coming. Like it's a minefield of babies around here. And how do we get back to this place of a secure functioning team? Like for a lot of people, it might feel like a really far off kind of idea.
If this was a natural thing, everybody would be doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it is actually a natural thing if we think of how all unions are formed in a free society. Unions, unless it's a dictatorship or slavery, unions are based on shared principles, shared purpose, shared vision. Otherwise, there's no reason to do it, right? It's a deal or no deal kind of thing. So let's agree. Let's agree to do this, and let's agree not to do that.
Mm.
We say. And that is the basis of all unions throughout human history. The only union that is oddly characteristically not doing this is the romantic union. The romantic union is the only one where people go in with some kind of tacit understanding or idea, usually it's their separate ideas, of what the relationship means and what the purpose of the relationship is. People will generally say it's about love, it's about attraction, it's about having spent time together, or it's because of the kids, when it really should be purpose centered, based on real things that people will do for each other and never do to each other, that they will work collaboratively and cooperatively, and that they will both get what they want and they will both avoid what they don't want. Right? That's how it should be. So whether you start before you have a baby, whether you start after you have a baby, whether you start when your kids are already grown, and it doesn't matter. Secure functioning relationships are the only kind that will last a very, very long time, as long as people wish, and will be happy. Any other system will end in rancor, threat, unhappiness, resentment, lots of memory of what happened that was never repaired. And so this is why we say that this is really the important thing that couples do at any point to shore up their relationship and to ensure that the relationship is awesome, not just serviceable. Right? It's got to be great. And so we have to remember that parenting is theater. We're showing, not telling our children how to do relationship. And they're watching. They're watching to see how we share amongst our partners, how we take care of each other, how we respect each other, how we fall on our own swords and make amends, even though that's hard to do, how we fix things and repair. So all of these things are important, and it starts now. And so it's never too late to start to build this in to the relationship. Otherwise, we'd all be in trouble. But we can learn to do this.
Yeah. And then I think, like, to the example like that you were saying, Hunter, like, and kind of just like building on what you just said, Stan, it's like, if that's happening in your relationship, it's great that you're aware of it. If you've noticed like patterns of resentment building over the years. And I would say, I mean, obviously the first step, like outside of awareness, is like talking with your partner about, in a very inclusive way, let's do something different. I don't think this is working for either one of us. So again, you're making like the problem outside of the couple. And like, then you're bringing in your partner to, let's solve this. This is not good. We're not connecting. We love each other. We like each other, and we're doing things to each other and, outside of each other that's not fostering that to grow. And that doesn't matter. That happens to couples. I mean, Stan and I see it in our practices all the time. It's like, that's life. People change, people don't make plans, to have babies. Babies explode their lives, all sorts, all sorts of things. Life happens. And that has an impact on couples, and they can fall into like destructive patterns with each other. I think that I know, like, as a partner myself, you can get out of destructive patterns. And I know as a clinician, you can get out of destructive patterns. And it takes that awareness and communicating and like coming in together for both people to attack it together, not attack each other. It's you're doing this. It's you're doing that. That's not going to work. It just isn't, because it's just going to be a fight. They're off to the races. And we all know how to fight with our partners better than we know how to fight with anybody else. I mean, that's just like long-term partnership, And what Stan and I are saying, and Baby Bomb and Stan says in his other work, is there's other ways to do this that are more sustainable.
I love what you're saying, like that it really comes down to this awareness, right? Awareness, like, your emotions are giving you messages that are important, right? And like, what are they telling you? What are these messengers telling you? And something's wrong. And this communication, awareness and communication, which is just what, I teach in mindful parenting, and we talk about, in this podcast all the time, which is this idea of, and you're saying like, instead of this, this habitual, natural, blameful language, you, and we just kind of fall into those patterns of like blame. This is all because of that person, you, and if you would change, everything would be better, right? But and then instead of saying, instead, you're kind of pointing to this idea of like a little taking, as a couple, taking responsibility for whatever has arisen between you, and saying, this isn't working. Like, we are having a problem with this. I love this idea of kind of externalizing it, like between you. And it's so similar with what we teach with the kids, like, well, let's be on the same team. Let's look at things in this external way. How can we both win?
And one thing you can tell them is, work the problem, not each other. Work the problem, not each other. And if people would just do that, they would actually get something done.
Right. And it's such a wonderful fantasy to be like, if you just changed, then everything would be fine. But that's what it is. It's like a fantasy, because it doesn't work that way. You both have to change, and the way that you solve problems together has to change. It's not really,
and I think it's like our locus of control is ourselves, right? Our locus of control is ourselves. So it's like, that is a fantasy of like, oh, it's like our lazy fantasy. Everything around me would just be perfect. Then I will be all right. Thank you. But okay. So it sounds like maybe, if you could say to people like, okay, I want the secure functioning team. I want this. Step one is to say like, listen, we've got something's going on. We got to talk about this. I mean, would you also recommend like there's maybe some repair that needs to be happening? What if somebody feels really wronged and they feel like the other person needs to be doing some repair?
They both need to make amends. Growing up is knowing how to fall on your sword and putting the relationship ahead of being right. So, we're talking about a relationship-centered orientation, a two-person psychological system of teamwork, that we put something higher than ourselves, and that is the union, the relationship that we created in our heads. It's a mythology, something we created, but we created it, hopefully, and we abide by the principles that we set, how we're going to govern each other and everyone else. And this is made by two people, not one person. So we have a problem. We go back to the drawing board, and let's say it's a problem of sharing our feelings. Well, let's start at the top. Should we, in this relationship, do we want a relationship where we can or are allowed to share our feelings? And then both of us say yes. Okay, that's the starting point. We agree. We both want that. Now it's a matter of, how do we do that? What are the conditions? What could go wrong? What's the manner in which we're going to do this that's respectful and that doesn't hurt the other partner? That's a discussion anybody can have, and that can be worked out ahead of time. And as long as people buy into the ideas that are being put forth in the back and forth, it's governable, it's enforceable, because we're actually getting agreement on something and giving each other permission to enforce that agreement. But people would have to look dispassionately at the problem and unionize and think about, how is this good for both of us? Most people look at where they disagree and what they don't like, and they fail to move up a few levels and to start to find where they actually do agree. Most people agree on the big ticket items. And then get into the facts that we're different people. The way I like to feel loved is different than the way you like to feel loved. No problem. We both want to feel loved. No problem. We can do that. And so this is really about understanding that where you go, Hunter, I go. We're tied together. There's nothing I can do that won't affect you immediately and won't affect me in return immediately. That's systems. That's a system that's reacting to itself. And if people start to understand this, and people do on teams, people do in the military or in cop car partners, they understand that their lives depend on each other and they have to move in coordination or they're not going to make it. There's only two people in a couple, two people holding up the union. The question is, are they both standing for the union or are they simply standing for themselves? And in that case, unions will always fail.
It's incredible because it's really, you're bringing it back to this idea of interconnection, right?
Yes.
Of interbeing.
Interdependency.
Interdependency, yes. Like we're so trained to be independent, right? We're just ourselves. We're so like individualist, at least in the United States, right? There's some studies about, country cultures, and the United States is the most individualist culture of any culture on earth, right? Like so individualist, and we think that's amazing, but there's drawbacks, especially when it comes to this situation.
Yes, like working collaborative and cooperatively with people to get things done. We're not so good at that. Take a look.
Right.
What's going on right now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
But I love this idea of agreements. Like, okay, like we can agree that we both want to be able to express our feelings. What are some other agreements that we should be making as couples? What are some healthy agreements that healthy, secure couples make with each other?
Well, let's take parenting for one. Do we both want our children to be healthy and happy? Yes. Do we both want our children to be good citizens? Yes. Do we both want our children to stand up on their own 2 feet and be able to handle life's vicissitudes? Yes. Do we want our children to be good neighbors, good citizens? Yes. Okay, we could go all the way down the line and you and I will probably agree. Now, the question is, how do we achieve this vision? Now we have a shared vision, which is really important that we have a shared vision. We're not pointing in different direction. I'm not saying, no, I'd like my kid to be a sociopath, right? That would be a problem. Not because I want them to be a sociopath, but because it's in direct opposition with what your vision is. So our vision is aligned. Good. Now, you and I are completely different. We're going to parent differently. We're going to get to that vision differently. And that is a constant improv and a constant collaboration with each of us cooperating, because neither of us are experts on this. This is a moving target. A baby, a child, developmentally, the brain is moving at a rapid pace. And so we have to be on our toes, and we can try things and get ready to drop them and try something else. So the fact that parents are different, have different backgrounds is actually a feature, not a bug. We know that children benefit from more than one caregiver. Their brains develop more heartily. There are many more neural pathways, both vertically and horizontally, when this is done. So that's a good thing. Now we're back to, are the parents able to work together as a team? So this is grown-up stuff. That means that people have to learn to come up with the best idea for now based on their arguments of how to approach this problem. And then they try it out. And then they go back to the drawing board. That, I think, is fun. That, I think, is what parenting should be. And by the way, dealing with all problems that come past, toward the couple, we work on problems and we solve them for now, put them into action, and then we go back and rework them.
Okay. So one thing that's coming to mind as I think about this, which is so you may agree, like, okay, we want our kids to be happy and healthy and functioning. We don't want them to be sociopaths. We're good on that. But then I get the question constantly of there's one parent who wants to parent with collaborative kind of modeling, like say a parent joins mindful parenting and they decide, like, I want to work on not yelling at my kids. I want to, like, maybe not be I don't want to be spanking them or scaring them. And I want to be maybe not using timeouts and things like that. Right. And they may have a partner who also wants their kids not to be sociopaths. And it thinks that the way to do that may be to be threatening and yelling and spanking and things like that. So Where does a couple like that start? Because I get this question all the time, and I don't. I'm not an expert in how to answer that question. It's a little. So I turn it over to you. Please help.
Sarah, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, I mean, I see similar things in my practice too, with couples that have very different ideas about discipline.
Mhm.
And how to make even if they have a shared vision, big picture, macro, how to do that in the micro. And I find that it comes back to communication and collaboration. Like, I'm curious, like, why do you think both? I mean, I tend towards respectful, gentle parenting myself, so that's an easy, like, of course, we don't do timeouts and stuff in our home. But but I'm curious about the other person. Like, why do you think that spanking is beneficial? Like, what, tell me more about it. I'm not going to immediately like disregard it because that's my teammate.
Yes.
Saying, I think spanking would be beneficial. I personally don't believe that, but that's not what's like important right now. What's important is like that this person, my partner, and again, my partner doesn't believe in spanking either, but let's say he did, I could feel myself having feelings of like, that's threatening, that's scary to me.
The whole mama bear.
Totally.
Thing would come out, right?
Right. I can have those feelings and still have a conversation with my partner.
So kind of, you're talking about like kind of this is, I'm so happy you said that, because this is the advice I offer. Get curious about where your partner is coming from, right? That attitude of kindness and curiosity from mindfulness. Like, why do they feel that way? But what you're suggesting is like, say, okay, it's okay for me to have these feelings, this feeling of being threatened by this, but right now I have to step into this role of, this place of I'm in this partnership. I'm on the same team. I have to understand.
It's the game. It's the game of influence me, persuade me.
Yeah. Tell me what's good about spanking.
We're going to
like, what do you think? And I mean, chances are you can talk these things out. I do this with couples on the daily, as long as you come in like open-hearted, like, I accept you. I accept this point of view, even though I don't agree with this point of view, but I accept you as a human being. So tell me, where are you coming from? And then it's like a conversation. It's like a collaboration together. It's not just like, that's terrible. Don't ever say that to me again. Like, I can't even hear that. I mean, that's really like shutting down, not just that conversation, but an opportunity to change, an opportunity for couples to have more authenticity with each other, more intimacy with each other, to have a safe place where I can say these like crazy ideas and like still be accepted. I mean, that's what like I as a clinician want to help couples have, of like having a place where they're accepted as they are, even though they might have these things that, like I said, I don't agree with, but
and this idea of like listening and in an open-minded, open-hearted way is opening up. It's like taking down those defenses, right? You're like opening there's opening a vulnerability, and you have the one locus of control, which is you. So like you can open up your vulnerability, right? Or your curiosity, and maybe also hope that helps your partner open up theirs.
Right, but also remember the situation here is we're dealing with two generals, right? These are two people with equal power and authority. They're both the buck stops with both of them. So they're trying to come up with the best plan for now that they can. Therefore, there is no one boss here. And if generals don't get along, soldiers die. That includes children. And so they have a duty to work the problem and to come up with the best solution. Therefore, they have to remain influenceable. Otherwise, one person now is taking over control, and that won't work. It won't work. There's blowback with that. So it's not just managing yourself, it's coming to the agreement ahead of time. We do this together or we don't do anything. We move together or we don't move. There's no blaming and saying, well, I did this because you wanted it and now it's all your fault. No, We don't move until we get each other on board. And if we know we have to do that, we'll do it faster and faster.
It sounds like a lot of conversations that parents may have trouble having time to
Ahead of time. All this is done ahead of time, not when you're in the thick of it.
Well, I will say I did both. I'll just be honest. And I'm doing both right now, being pregnant again. We're having the conversations like, things that we would like to change in like the early stages of parenthood based on like learning through like the first experience. And I know, Hunter, I know that parents are like short on time, especially in like the pandemic. And with childcare being hit or miss, and our own bandwidth being hit or miss. But I also know that it's possible to have these conversations, and they don't have to be, in fact, they shouldn't be multi-hour things. They should be like short. In fact, you can have them in front, like when your kid is around, as long as you're both like regulated, you're taking care of each other as you're having the conversation. Like I said, like, I want to hear where you're coming from. I want to tell you where I'm coming from. I want to reach an agreement like together, like Stan said, that'll work for right now, for maybe even like, let's just be real in the pandemic, maybe for today. Today, we're not going to do timeouts. Okay. Or like just for right now, and like see how that goes. And I want to like help, like in my own partnership, and then like with the couples that I work with, is introduce like that fluidity, like the improv Stan was talking about, the yes and like we can figure this out on the fly and trust each other enough to keep it moving. What we want to help couples move away from is that brittleness they can get into, the rigidity. No. Then you've got conversations that no parent does have time for, because they're not working, they're going on for days, hours, weeks. And there is a lack of collaboration. And usually that's coming from like, stuck to go back to attachment theory, stuck in their attachment strategies.
Right.
Of like, and I'm just thinking
memories.
Exactly. I'm just thinking about myself. I don't feel safe. Your behavior is scaring me. I need to feel safe. And that isn't collaborative. And a lot of times that's unconscious. People don't realize they're doing it,
And that's something people could say, like, listen, I'm not feeling safe in this moment. Like, that's something you could say. And it's sometimes it sounds funny, like if that's not your normal modus operandi for communicating, but here you have permission to say, I don't feel safe in this relationship right now. This is how I'm feeling. And
in a secure functioning relationship, that other partner has a responsibility to take care of that immediately now, without argument, without question, without excuse. I care. If you don't feel safe in this relationship, that's a problem for me as well. I'm going to take care of that, because we are in fact assuring each other, I'm responsible for your safety and security at all times in this relationship. You are responsible for mine. Therefore, I hear that, and I'm going to take care of it right now. That has to happen.
Would people say that's codependence? I know
no, that's interdependence.
Yeah.
It's interdependence, because if we're tied together interdependently, not codependently. Codependently is a one-way deal. I'm living on crumbs, giving you everything, hoping I'll get something in return. No, this is a fully equal thing. We're mutual stakeholders, pal. I've got to do this. You got to do this. So do it. We both agreed. So this is equal partnership. If you are unhappy, I will pay for it. I know this. There's no way that you can be unhappy or insecure or unsafe without me paying for it. It's in my best interest to shore that up. That's interdependency.
Yeah.
I think this is such a healthy way of looking at it, but also very clear and logical. I love the way you're presenting this as so very clear and logical. And I think
and hard to do.
And hard to do. Yeah. So what are
Yeah.
some places, like what's maybe an easy place to start some of these conversations? Like what are some ways to get started with it?
To first settle the matter. Are we on the same page with regard to the relationship being the central thing?
Mm.
The couple comes first. Our well-being, happiness comes before everything and everyone else, for reasons I just explained, because everyone's depending on us. Therefore, everything else secondary, because if we go down, everyone goes down. Second, do we tell each other everything? Does the right and left hand know exactly what they're doing? If not, why not? Because the greatest commodity in a union, an alliance, is information. So if we're not sharing and fully open with each other, then we're not able to do business well, and other people are going to suffer for it. Do we have each other's backs at all times, no matter what? We could give each other notes in the background, but in front of people, with each other, we are each other's guardians. We are each other's backers. We are absolutely protectors of each other, because the world will never do that. Only we will by agreement. Do we deal with third people together, or do we do it separately? I just take care of my ex-girlfriend by myself. Well, no, that threatens you, because you don't know what I'm doing over here. We handle all other things and people together, and that makes us awesome. That makes us powerful. That makes us two people who can handle anything that comes across the table, because the essence of a good couple is the amount of load bearing it can take. And make no mistake, as we move through time, there's increasing load bearing. And if we're not really good as a team, the wheels come off. And so we have to decide now, where are we pointing? Do we agree on these things of how we're going to do business with each other? It's not about changing who we are. It's about how we interact. And that is a must, because we want to be able to handle everything quickly without ever going to war, if possible. And we want to be able to create things. And we can only do that by really being good at working together, even though we're annoying, pain in the ass human beings. That'll never end.
I love this. I love this vision. I want to just like capture what you just said and rewind.
But I think it's also important to add that it's a practice. It's a
practice.
moment to moment practice of us being imperfect people that we are,
Absolutely.
Get into our heads that this is better for just myself. I mean, like, I have to remind myself of this on the daily, like that I'm part of a team. It's not just the Kara show, and I like have a tendency to do that and think that how I think things should be done is the better way. And I have to, practice humility and grace towards myself for having that. And then remember, that this is a practice that we fall off of and get back on.
And the good news is that's why human beings invented amends and repair, because we are perfectly imperfect. That's fine, as long as we fix it right away.
And I love that you guys have these practical steps for those amends. They're so beautiful. They have a wonderful, dear listener, they have a wonderful do and don't chart, including do, I'm sorry, don't, I'm sorry, but.
I'm sorry, but. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way is never.
Yeah. I'm sorry you feel that way. I've totally said that to my daughter and meant it. Like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but instead just say, I'm sorry I did. I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry if I said that. Sounds like something I'd say. You can never go wrong by leading with, you know what, I'm an idiot. I'm so sorry. That was stupid. I should not have done that. I would not have liked it if you did that. There's a reason why we repair, and it's because people are warlike, and we're threat animals, and we repair because we're trying to hold unions and alliances together. So it's essential. It's essential in psychology, from the very beginning with infants.
The whole idea of attuning, misattuning is the beginning of repair. I misattune with you, and then I get back on track because I want to get along with you. That's the initial repair. And then later on, it's sorry. I'm sorry, mommy. I'm sorry, daddy. Right? It is our need to keep the relationship intact. And in family cultures that do not repair, create a lineage of very angry people who make society pay for the sins of their parents, because it is a huge, huge issue in the justice and fairness area. So grow up, learn to fall on your own swords, do it for the relationship. And this is a character matter. So one last thing, secure functioning is very simple. It is really hard to do, but anything worthwhile is hard to do because basically we're lazy creatures and we'll always default to the easiest, most immediate thing that makes us feel better, even though it crashes the relationship.
Yeah, we're wired for survival, not for thriving. So it takes we're wired to have, lazy shortcut taking brains, and that's, just conserving energy. And so, yes, it does take work. It is worthwhile. I love that. That's important.
Yeah. It's a leveling up, like this idea of secure functioning. And that's
across all human beings, no matter where they are on the planet, gender, sex, doesn't matter your history. All people are the same in this manner.
Yeah.
This has been so wonderful to talk to you guys. I wish I had another hour to talk to you about it and ask all kinds of questions. The book Baby Bomb is a relationship survival guide for new parents, but I think it's also for if you already have kids. So I would definitely check it out, dear listener. Kara and Stan, thank you so much. You guys are gems. It's wonderful. Where can people find out more about you and carry on the conversation if they'd like?
Thanks for having us. This has been so fun. I feel so passionately about this because it's been such a game changer for me personally. I like thinking, not thinking, but practicing doing something different than I was learned or taught or modeled by my parents, and knowing I'm passing that on to my children. It really means a lot to me when my son and then my daughter to be, or when she's here, watch me repair, say, I made a mistake. And that's okay in our house. We make mistakes and everyone still belongs. You're accepted making mistakes. And that's anyway, I feel really passionately about doing this. But you can find me at karahoppe.com or on the socials at Kara Hoppe. And I'm actually collaborating with Stan's PACT Institute and teaching a course based on our book, but for expecting couples and then parents of all aged children. And you can find more information on the PACT Institute about that. The course is called Win-Win Parenting. Better partners make better parents.
And you can find me at thepactinstitute.com. That's PACT. And there you'll find links to all sorts of articles. And if you're a therapist, training in the PACT model, or if you're a couple, coming to our PACT retreats, which we do throughout every year around the country. And in social media, it's Dr. Stan Tatkin on every social media platform, pretty much.
Well, thank you guys so much. It really has been a joy. I really appreciate the work you put into the world. And I appreciate your time. It was not, dear listener, it's not easy to get 3 people who have very different schedules together. So it has been a feat to get us together. And I hope you appreciate it as much as I do. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Hunter. It was great.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mindful Mama podcast. I really greatly appreciate your time and your attention. It's so great to connect, and it's so meaningful that we can connect on these incredibly important issues. Oh my gosh, I feel like I learned so much from this. Listen, if you love this episode, please do me a favor. Share it on your Instagram stories and tag me at Mindful Mama Mentor. It's so great to hear your ahas. If you have an aha, put it there or let me know. And I would love to hear what you're taking away from this, because I am taking away a lot and bringing it to my honey. So I'm wishing you a great week. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have some peace, some ease, all that good stuff. I hope you are able to be present for all the people in your life you love. And I hope that this has helped water the seeds for that for you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Namaste.
Say definitely do it. It's really helpful. It will change your relationship with your kids for the better. It will help you communicate better. And just, I'd say communicate better as a person, as a wife, as a spouse. It's been really a positive influence in our lives. So definitely do it.
I'd say definitely do it. It's so worth it. The money really is inconsequential when you get so much benefit from being a better parent to your children and feeling like you're connecting more with them and not feeling like you're yelling all the time or you're like, why isn't things working? I would say definitely do it. It's so worth it. It'll change you.
No matter what age someone's child is, it's a great opportunity for personal growth and it's a great investment in someone's family. I'm very thankful I had this.
You can continue in your old habits that aren't working, or you can learn some new tools and gain some perspective to shift everything in your parenting.
Are you frustrated by parenting? Do you listen to the experts and try all the tips and strategies, but you're just not seeing the results that you want? Or are you lost as to where to start? Does it all seem so overwhelming with too much to learn? Are you yearning for a community of people who get it, who also don't want to threaten and punish to create cooperation? Hi, I'm Hunter Clark-Fields, and if you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to seriously consider the Mindful Parenting membership. You'll be joining hundreds of members who have discovered the path of mindful parenting and now have confidence and clarity in their parenting. This isn't just another parenting class. This is an opportunity to really discover your unique, lasting relationship, not only with your children, but with yourself. It will translate into lasting, connected relationships, not only with your children, but your partner too. Let me change your life. Go to mindfulparentingcourse.com to add your name to the waitlist, so you will be the first to be notified when I open the membership for enrollment. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. mindfulparentingcourse.com.